I've been getting really into drinking tea lately. I don't know what in me shifted. I think I just got really, really tired of coffee and I was like, tea's gonna work, right? So today's video is being planned, filmed, edited, and posted on the same day, on Sunday, September 25th, 2016, and it comes from an Instagram question that I got sent to me, I think last week, from a lovely girl named Emily on Instagram, and she said something along the lines of, can you make a video about friendship? Can you talk about losing friends, making friends, you know, all that kind of stuff that is not isolated to just a childhood experience or a teenage experience, but something that will happen several, if not dozens, if not tens of dozens of times in your life. Losing friends is as natural as anything else that we as humans do. But contrasting that, making friends is something that we also do. And whether you're shy or introverted or extremely outgoing or extroverted, you are going to make and lose friends at different points. So this video is going to be all about those two things, losing friends, making friends, and it's just gonna be a chilled out, candid chat with me, to you, and with you in the comments down below. So let's get into it. So on the topic of losing friends, I think one of the first things people think of is, what do I do if I lose friends? It feels like your world is crumbling down. Well, no, let me go back on that. Depending on who the person is, it can feel like your world is coming crushing down. Sometimes you lose friends that are like sisters or brothers to you. You lose friends that have had not only a major impact in your life, but that, you know, changed you, helped you become the person that you are. But other times, the friends that we lose are people that we wouldn't even attribute that much of our happiness or fulfillment to. Sometimes we lose acquaintances, you know, nothing happens, but things fade off. Sometimes we lose people that we hung out with a few times, we wanted to become better friends, but you just weren't vibing. Perhaps they were in a weird place in their life, or you were in a weird place in your life, or you just weren't meant to be. So no biggie, it just happened. But when people talk about the whole concept of losing friends, most of the time they're thinking of the friends that we lose that kind of rip our heart out, friendships that fizzle out weirdly, everything is kind of weird and muggy and mucky and confusing and you don't really know what to do with. So like I was saying, there are like 1,000,001 reasons of why you can lose friends. It's their fault, it's my fault, it's both of our faults. It just fizzled out, things got weird, we just stopped talking. There are so many reasons. When I have lost these important friendships in my life in the past, the number one thing I do immediately after is, even if I know it's not my fault or I know it was just a bad situation, I try to attribute blame to one or both parties. I will either blame that person for being too stuck up or not understanding of all situations, or I conversely will blame myself for things that weren't my fault, and I will, you know, beat myself up over it, saying like, oh, if you had only done this, if you had only done that, this wouldn't have happened. But an important thing to realize is that very rarely in life are things black and white. You know, you can't just say it was this person's fault, it was that person's fault. But it's never really one person's fault. More often, our lives, instead of existing in the black and in the white, exist in the gray. Our lives exist in the weird, mucky part, the part where we can't really attribute blame anywhere but in timing. The timing was off, things just didn't work out, our lives are weird, our lives don't go together right now. That is a lot harder to cope with than, oh, this person did this. But my advice to you is that if you do what I do when you lose important friendships in your life, and that is try to make it black and white, catch yourself doing that and tell yourself that, you know, as easy as it would be to do that in order to cope with this, let yourself ride out those shitty feelings in order to gain some self-awareness and really grow from the situation. There have been friendships in the past, like when I was like 13, 14, 15, where when the relationship ended, I decided that the person who I lost the friendship with is evil. I decided that I want nothing to do with them and that they're unimportant and stupid, and yes, that made it so much easier for me to cope with. I moved on from that relationship within a few days, if not a week, you know, it was really, really quick. But as I've gotten older and friendships have ended and it's been somebody really, really important, I've let myself simmer in the shitty part. So yes, we can acknowledge the fact that coping is easier when things are simpler, but that things are often not simpler, they're often much more complicated, and the only way to really grow from this situation is to sit in the shitty part for a little while. Another important thing to remember when you lose an important friendship in your life is that everything happens for a reason. And yes, I understand that that is a lot easier said than done. It's easy to acknowledge that that's an important belief to have, but to actually implement that into your life and to consciously believe that is a lot harder. The reason that this is so hard to accept, particularly within the realm of friendships, is because if the friendship was that important, they probably were a pretty big part of your life. Whether you FaceTimed with them every day, or you hung out all the time, or you texted constantly, you shared really deep personal things about your life, odds are they were really, really relevant. So to suddenly have that go from being in your life, being relevant, to completely disappearing is a really, really big thing to take into consideration and to cope with. But if you're struggling to think of things that can come out as positives from the situation, here are some ideas. You know, maybe now that that person is out of your life, even though they were a very important part of it, you now have room for new and different friends. It won't be exactly the same, but they will bring new personality traits to the table. They'll bring new skills and interests. They'll teach you things that you didn't know before. And sometimes these important friendships can coexist in your life, but sometimes it's very necessary for one of them to leave, for another one to come forward, and you're not going to fully understand that until it happens. What's another positive of losing friends? Oh, if you lose a friend, you can spend more time focusing on you. It might be hard in the beginning when you're feeling pretty negative and gross after the friendship falls out, but maybe you'll find more time in your life if you're not hanging out with that person or not talking to them constantly to exercise, to meditate, do yoga, at night take a bath, you know, instead of going out to the movies with them. Socialization is very important, but do not think that the relationship you have with yourself is any less important than those two-person relationships. Something that I always like to keep in mind is that you cannot fully give yourself to others and have positive relationships that, you know, are good for both people involved unless you fully know yourself. Well, not fully know yourself. You never really fully know yourself, but unless you're actively trying to know yourself and understand who you are. But overall, while I understand how shit it can be to lose friends, and I personally have felt that way at many, many different points in my life, the acknowledgement of the normality and, you know, expecting it to happen makes it a little bit easier to cope with. Acknowledge that as you yourself grow and evolve and change, other people are doing the exact same thing. And while at one moment the timing may be perfectly aligned for you guys to get along and help each other and benefit each other, at some other point, oftentimes, the timing is gonna fall off again as you continue to evolve and change, and expecting people to always stay the same, or for your friendship's dynamic to always stay the same, is unrealistic. And another important thing to acknowledge is that sometimes in relationships, you were the toxic person. It's easy to look at someone else and be like, oh, they were so toxic, I'm so glad I'm not friends with them anymore. But in their eyes, you might be the toxic person too, and that's nothing to beat yourself up about, it's nothing to, you know, hate yourself for, but it's something to acknowledge and move on from. You were toxic to that person at that point in time, and the friendship ended for a reason. It's no one's fault, no one fucked up, it just is a thing that happened. And you can move forward and you can have more positive, loving relationships with different people, and at no point should you attribute all of your happiness and all of your self-worth to one person. You're going to move on, you're going to be happy again, and I promise you will get there. So naturally, after you go through a bout of losing one friend or several friends or important relationships in your life, you'll begin to wonder, when am I going to make some new fucking friends? You'll think to yourself, how do I move on? How do I find value in myself again? How do I develop relationships that are going to give me the same happiness that this one did? Well, my biggest piece of advice here is to acknowledge the fact that every single friendship you will ever have will be different. There are friends in life that come very far and few between who will literally stick with you no matter what. There are people, even if like you're depressed and you cannot control your emotions, if you stop trusting people, if you just get angry at everyone, you have like mental breakdowns, there are people who will stick with you even through that, and they're amazing. Hold on to them if you can. But in addition to that, there are many other types of friends that will come into your life for a little, the timing will go off, and then they'll move on. There are acquaintances that you will make that you'll stop being friends with for no apparent reason. There will be a grocery clerk at the store that you shop at that you see once a week. You develop a friendship, but that's all it's ever gonna be. There are people who are there only for the good parts of your life, and people who are there only for the bad parts. There will even be friends that you use and friends that use you. But the most important thing to remember is that you cannot expect the same type of friendship or same quality of friendship from everybody that you encounter in this life. I've had friends that I literally only laugh with. Like, nothing ever gets too serious, we never get that deep, but everything is so funny and I feel so positive and happy after being with them. But there are also friends that I will only have deep discussions with. Friends that I get together with when I feel like I have so much on my mind and I'm gonna explode. There are friends that you can do both of those things with, and you can go from like crying with laughter to having a really deep discussion within moments. There are friends that you'll complain to, there are friends that you'll only be positive with, there are friends that you'll never fully be yourself around, or friends that will bring out parts of you that you didn't even know were there. But the important thing is that there are so many beautiful kinds of friendship that exist, and to expect the same quality or type of friendship from everyone is cutting yourself a little bit short. But my whole point is that if you follow the logic that everyone in your life is neither good nor bad, but only stand to teach you something, to give you something, and for you to give them, then you are going to have many, many amazing relationships over the years. You can make new friends in any types of way. You can make friends at your job, you can make friends walking around, you can make friends, at college, at school, you can go to vegan meetups or whatever you're interested in those meetups. You can meet people online. You can meet friends in so many different ways, and the only way that you're going to be able to make those friendships is if you're open to it. Don't have an expectation of what your friendships will be like. Open yourself up to them, invite people in. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, no problems. Nobody is inherently good or bad. Sometimes things just don't work out, and that's the way it goes. Anyways, guys, I think this video's gone on long enough. This whole time, actually, I've been drinking matcha green tea, which has been amazing, and I'm almost done with it, and I love it. And I hope that this video, despite its length and despite its muddled, confusing words, gave you some sort of comfort if you're dealing with something like this in your life, or gave you knowledge to tackle future relationships, or the power to get through a fallen one. At the end of the day, you need to be a person regardless of who else is in your life, but do not ignore the power of empowering relationships. I've been lucky enough to have and lose many amazing friends, and I know that for the rest of my life, it's going to happen many more times. Before you guys click off this video, I really would appreciate if you would do a few things for me. It's really, really simple. If you want to give this video a thumbs up, it helps me out a lot. It really, really does, and I'd really appreciate it. If you have any friendships, that have fizzled out, any more advice, anything you're going through, leave it in the comments down below. Let's all be a community, let's help each other out, and I will do my best to respond to as many of them as I can. If you also have any other video requests or ideas for the future, you can also leave them down below. You can click on my channel, go watch more videos if you want. There's like an endless amount of things that you can do. But overall, again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I'm getting back into at least one video a week, so I can keep up this channel as I figure out who I am and what I want and what I'm doing. I do have other exciting things kind of brewing that I will fill you in on as soon as I can. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.